The sad truth behind Michael Jackson's nose surgeries. The king of pop had a number of plastic surgeries over his lifetime, as his looks changed throughout the years. But the fans have always been curious as to why Michael Jackson felt the need to change the way he looked so drastically. Jackson is viewed as one of the most talented and influential artists of all times, with his Thriller album still the best-selling album of all times, a good 21 million clear of second place. But as one of the most popular musical figures, Jackson was one of the most scrutinized, and to this day, he arguably still is. Perhaps his upcoming biopic will offer us more insight into who the man really was, but for now all we have is archive videos and stories for those who knew him. A subject that has always interested the public was Jackson's ever-changing appearance throughout the decades, and it looks like his Bodyguard may just have revealed all on the changes. Matt Fides is a Swindon-born celebrity trainer who is also the self-proclaimed owner of the world's largest martial arts schools. But before all of that, he was a bodyguard for none other than Michael Jackson. Featuring as a guest on the Stephen Saleh Study podcast, Fides was asked by Saleh about the change to his nose, and did so as a TikTok clip of the podcast has amassed over 130,000 views. He explained, he used to get teased by his family a lot over the size of his nose, being called big nose and all of this stuff. He used to say his dad used to be the main one. You didn't get that from me. You got that from your mom. You didn't get that from my side of the family. It hurt him a lot, Fides explained. But that ultimately wasn't the reason. Fides went on, Michael used to dance about 3 hours a day on average. At one stage he was doing 50 spins in a row. It was unbelievable. He fell over and broke his nose, and he saw it as the perfect opportunity while he was under anesthetic to just get a smaller nose. Jackson underwent his first rhinoplasty surgery in 1979 and went on to have several more. Fides also stated that he didn't speak to the singer about the extent of each surgery in detail, but said that it was clear that he altered his nose. The ex-bodyguard also suggested that Jackson knew that people paid a lot of attention to his appearance and that Jackson would play on it. A lot of times how the media would have seen him is not how I would have seen him. He would make himself look ridiculous to wind the media up. Michael Jackson's son explained why his dad always covered their faces growing up. The king of pop had some mysterious ways, and his children are starting to shed some light on the reasons why. Michael Jackson had 3 children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, now known as Biggie, and they rarely speak publicly about their dad and his private life. However, eldest son Prince has given some insights into some of Michael Jackson's unexplained tendencies. In a fascinating interview with the Los Angeles Times in 2016, Prince explained why he and his siblings were made to wear masks to cover their identities when they were children. Prince said, "My dad spoke to me like an adult. He told us the reason for the mask was he wanted us to have our own lives without him. I don't think I ever thought about if other kids lived like that when I was younger. But once I knew who he was, I realized it wasn't normal. I remember being in Disneyland and I went to the window and there were all these fans waving and taking pictures of me. I thought it was normal, so I just waved back. You would say my whole life has been unconventional. I really love that though, and it's all I've ever known. It wasn't until I saw a video of him performing and people were fainting and passing out when I realized the work he did meant a lot to people. He added that he understood a lot of his dad's wacky parenting choices because they could often go out without him and not be recognized due to their identities being kept a secret. Talking about following in his dad's footsteps, he joked, "Everyone thinks I'm going to do music and dance. But he is the first to admit he cannot do either of the things his dad was renownedly the king of." He added, "Music is a big part of my life. It shaped who I am because of my family, but I've always wanted to go into production and directing." After the 2016 interview, Prince graduated from Loyola Marymount University with a degree in business administration in 2019. He also co-founded the charity Heal Los Angeles, which aims to improve the lives of young people in Los Angeles. In 2020, he said he thinks his dad would be very proud of all he's achieved. People who worked with Michael Jackson said they saw something different about him in his final days of rehearsals before his death. The singer had been preparing for his comeback tour titled "This Is It," which had been due to begin on the 13th July 2009 and last until March of the following year at the O2 Arena in London. However, Jackson died in his Los Angeles home at the age of 50 on 25th June, less than 3 weeks before the show was about to start, with all 50 concerts sold out. On 28th August, a day before Jackson would have turned 51, the coroner concluded that his death had been a homicide after being administered a series of drugs by his doctor, who was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. This Is It was cancelled, leaving footage of Jackson rehearsing 48 hours before his death as the final recorded video of him before he died, and people who knew him have said they could see something different about the music star in it. Doreen Hawley, Jackson's vocal director for This Is It, who had worked with him for years, told Time magazine that the singer was glowing as he was finally seeing it all come together. Hawley said that he was amazed by Jackson's ability to keep it up with the backing dancers, but revealed the singers would sometimes talk about how it made him soar. The final footage of Jackson shows him rehearsing the song "They Don't Care About Us" along with the backup dancers at the Staples Center, Los Angeles, but one part which particularly affected people is what happened at the end. The lights went down and suddenly the only clearly visible figure on stage was Jackson, while the backing dancers were shrouded in red. A voice can be heard telling the performers to hold for the applause, and as the lights faded out completely, the only visible face was Jackson's as he had his eyes closed and looked contemplative before smiling. People viewing the footage have said that the final smile they saw was priceless, while someone else said it put a knot in my throat every time. A third said Jackson's smile as the song concluded and the lights went down brings me the tears every time. Hawley said that during rehearsals, you couldn't take your eyes off of him, and he left the rest of the crew with our jaws open. One particular thing the vocal director enjoyed was being able to isolate Jackson's performance during rehearsals from the rest of the show, which he said gave him a new appreciation for what a genius he was with his voice. Michael Jackson was known for his soft and high-pitched voice, but the resurfaced video suggests he might have just been putting it on. The Thriller singer's softly spoken voice was just as much part of his image as the moonwalk and his glitter glove. Rumors circulated that the reason for his high-pitched tone was because of his notoriously strange father injecting him with hormones to stay childlike forever, maintaining his tone for singing. Conrad Murray, the doctor who served time for administering Jackson a fatal dose of painkillers, claimed the singer's late father, Joe Jackson, chemically castrated him aged 12 to maintain his high-pitched voice. While it is uncertain whether this actually happened, the people closest to Michael have instead claimed his voice was part of a careful, crafted public persona. Rapper T-Pain once recalled, "His voice is as deep as shh." It was between where you think Michael Jackson is and Prince. It was in between that. There is also a clip of Michael using a deeper, more masculine voice during a performance in Copenhagen in 1997. One fan commented under the video, "Wow, makes him seem like a totally different person in that moment." The megastar's good friends Lisa Minnelli and David Case once let slip that the star had a second voice. Lisa was shocked when she first heard his deep tone and said, "Michael, you bastard, I got you now. All these years you've been talking in that voice." In 2005, journalist Diane Demond said Jackson had a big deep voice. She said, "Somewhere in there, especially if you bring him bad news or if you make him mad, his voice gets very, very deep." I was there one day when someone asked him about Gloria Allred, the attorney that has sort of dodged him and turned around in one foul swoop and said, "She can go to hell," in this big, deep masculine voice. David and Lisa believed that Michael had crafted a public persona, which the high-pitched voice was a part of, to protect the inner and younger self after years of pain and hurt. Lisa added, "He's been hurt too much. I mean, people have said kind of rotten things about him. The person that we know is a rather regular guy, believe it or not." Michael Jackson's one glove was a part of his image. His friend claims there was actually a medical reason as to why he wore it. Michael Jackson is unquestionably one of the greatest and well-known singers of all time, and his music has very much had an influence on a lot of artists today. Whether that's the iconic Thriller or Billie Jean's, his instantly recognizable moonwalk, or the white glove that would appear in a lot of his performances. The glove, for example, became part of MJ's brand after a while, as fans would not have recognized him without the ironic clothing accessory. Many people presume the glove was just a part of Jackson's image, something that made him unique in the music space. But the reason why Jackson wore the glove is actually quite a sad one, according to a friend of his who claimed the glove was for Jackson to hide his vitiligo. The skin condition is a long-term disease where pale white patches develop on the skin, according to the NHS. It's caused by the lack of melanin, which is the pigment in skin, and while it can affect any area of the skin, it is most common on the face, neck, hands, and skin creases. Actor Cicely Tyson, who died in 2021 at the age of 96, shared a fashion designer with MJ in 1980s. She was made aware of the glove being made by the designer for Jackson so he could hide his vitiligo. Speaking to CNN in 2019, Tyson said, "All of a sudden, he, the designer, said, 'I'm doing this glove for Michael.' The glove was to cover the vitiligo. That's how that glove came into being." Jackson confirmed himself he had the skin condition in a rare interview with Oprah, with the legendary singer even admitting he found it hurtful when it was being discussed in the press. "This is the situation. I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It is something I cannot help. Okay?" Jackson said. "But when people made up stories that I don't want to be what I am, it hurts me. It's a problem for me that I cannot control." Over the years, many have questioned why Jackson decided to wear just one glove instead of two. Well, as per The Independent, Michael Jackson himself explained, "I felt that one glove was cool. Wearing two gloves seems so ordinary." He has certainly got a point there. Two gloves, Jackson, would have been rather strange indeed. Michael Jackson had a big regret about his career, and it's something many famous folks seem to have experienced. Michael Jackson once spoke about the biggest regret he had about his career in the music industry. It's been years since the singer died shortly before he was due to perform his farewell concert for his This Is It show. Jackson died on the 25th June 2009, just 18 days before he was due to begin his This Is It tour, and he had been rehearsing for it shortly before his death at the age of 50. While he was one of the biggest music stars of all time with millions of fans, it seems as though Jackson could be his own harshest critic, as evidenced by resurfaced interview footage where he spoke about regrets. Almost a decade after Jackson's death, Good Morning America announced that there would be a documentary about his life called The Last Days of Michael Jackson, which contained previously unseen footage from an interview the singer did in 1995. During that never-before-seen conversation with ABC's Diane Sawyer, he was very critical of his own performances and shared the biggest regret he had about his career. He said, "I'm just never satisfied with what I do creatively. I just regret the limitation of my own imagination. I just feel there's so much more. I don't think I've ever done a project where I was totally happy with it." The self-criticism continued on to subject most people would have reckoned Jackson was a master at dancing. He said he wasn't happy about his first performance on the moonwalk, as he had planned a spin around 5 times, land on his toes and hold the position. Not managing this, Jackson said he was angry that he had not done it and felt really disappointed afterwards. Fortunately, he revealed that something managed to cheer him up pretty quickly afterwards, getting a call the next day from famous dancer Fred Astaire, who told Jackson he was an incredible mover. This was the review the singer needed to convince him he had actually done a good job with the moonwalk after all. In a different interview, Jackson was asked whether he ever regretted being famous, to which he responded, "Sometimes, only sometimes. Sometimes I want to sneak into places and not have any hoopla, and it doesn't work all the time because people start and they crowd around." Jackson said as his interviewer told him everyone had the right to be alone from time to time. The singer responded that it was part of the work. And that's all with us today. Stay tuned to our celebrity news and gossip.